Hey, manufacturing managers, skilled trades, just about anyone who is ready to build it better. It is time to level up. From marketing, sales, business development, finance, operations, and education, Jeanne Conger has over 25 years in the housing industry with both public and private home builders. Today, she is joining Dave Cooper Live to share how the adoption of construction technology is advancing success in the construction sector and setting the next generation of construction leaders on a successful path. Currently, Chief Client Officer of On3, a learning management system customized to capture specific processes, create AI-enabled learning, deliver, coach, and measure performance. Jeanne is leading award-winning teams and delivering outstanding results. But you know it, we can't deliver any of these informative conversations without our sponsors. So a big quick shout out to Carson Holmquist and the team at Stream Logistics. They are experts in high stakes freights. They are the perfect choice for projects with timelines and specific delivery sequences, shipments with high complexity and unique constraints. The new method of construction needs new transportation solutions, and they are up for the challenge. Check them out at streamlogistics.com. Also, we can't move all this stuff around without our good friends at Combi Lift. So they are the largest global manufacturer of multi-directional forklifts and straddle carriers. They are a leader in long load handling solutions, offering a free warehouse and site optimization design service. Combi Lift helps companies of all sizes and from every industry maximize their capacity, safety, and efficiency of their warehouse and storage facilities. Thank you to Paul Short and the team at Combi Lift for helping us on this show and around the world to build it better. Learn more at combilift.com. And we can't do all of this fun stuff without the automation, folks. Brave Control Solution, we're off-site manufacturing systems that do more than just improve productivity. They have a unique approach to the industrialized construction with a lineup of flexible automation systems specifically designed for the construction industry, empowered by CAD to Fab. And turnkey solutions for 3D volumetric assembly, structural insulated panels, finished wall assemblies, MEP component processing, assembly, kitting, and storage. Learn more at thinkbrave.com. All right, well, without further ado, we want to thank all those sponsors one last time. Let's hop right into it. Let's bring Jeanne Conger into the show. Jeanne, how are you, my friend?
I am feeling the vibe for $19.95 plus shipping and handling. You're going to have not one, not two, but three Dave Coopers.
That's it. Sometimes I love it. That was pretty good. You're going to take my job. You keep it up. Maybe I should be in that side of the world doing those types of things. But I really love doing this, and I love thanking all of our sponsors. What I really love about today's, so Jeanne, we met last year. We were on a panel together at the International Builder Show, sitting up on stage, talking about the best of award folks that were in the lineup to win. And that was a lot of fun. And that was our first introduction, not only to you, but all the wonderful things we're doing. And we're going to hop into that in just a moment. So, Jeanne, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will have a family member on this show, and it can get quite embarrassing. So you only have 2 minutes to do it, though. The floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, it was a Tuesday. No, just kidding.
Hampton, was it at a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn?
Yeah, really. No, it was a parking lot. But the
oh boy,
if I had to condense what's about me in 2 minutes, that would be somewhat impossible. So I'll hit the Cliff Note version. I started in home building kind of by accident. I did an internship in college, and it became a disease, so much so that I wanted to know more about it. And as a girl, it was, even from the beginning, it was kind of like, you don't really want to know about that. You just want to answer the phone. And I became that annoying pest that would say, but what does that mean? Or why is this manufacturer mad at the other supplier? I don't understand. So fast forward, I worked for several builders. I got to work for Rayco, which became Ray Ellison, which became Rayco, which became KB Home. And that business model is where centralized scheduling was born. So Jack Robinson had worked for the Frito-Lay company and developed a process for home building, which most production builders use now, centralized scheduling, that basically plans every step of a home building process so that it makes sense. And it's interesting to note that it came from Frito-Lay, because as we look at industry disruptions and fast forward to now, our industry is a little bit frozen. So I've worked for public home builders. I've literally been a builder in the field. I've been in sales, marketing. I was a corporate EVP as well as a division president. I think my favorite job was probably being a builder. I was not a great builder. I learned some hacks, and it took me a good 10 years before I would even admit how I succeeded as a builder in the field. So if that comes up, I'd be glad to tell you more about it. I don't know where we are in the 2 minutes because you don't have a big timer or a note saying hurry. You're done talking.
Well, you definitely, you know what, you were going on about it. And I actually love it because, one, we need more people like yourself in our industry, the way you think and how we need to advance it. And we're going to get into some of those things. But we also need more folks that have been in this industry at the boots in the dirt level. Right? The boots in the dirt level. It just so happens that, Jeanne, you're a female, you're in this industry and you love it. And that's what's a lot of fun to talk about it. And I think, seeing where it was when you came into the industry, I think this whole conversation is going to be based around, where is it headed? Because you are on the cutting edge of the technology for our industry as we see it right now with On3 and what you guys are looking to do. But I really want to start off by saying, what really got you into this? Like, what was that drive that's made you step into the construction industry?
I think part of it, if I was honest, is that somebody told me I couldn't. Yep. It's not a girl's industry. You could answer the phone. You could potentially be in sales, even though back in the day that wasn't necessarily a good idea. But having the idea that you could build something out of nothing. And this little old man, Ray Ellison, I went to a meeting. And again, at this point, I was just an intern, but I went to a meeting where we were on a rooftop. And this was in San Antonio, Texas. And he said he made everybody look out over the landscape on top of this high-rise building. And he said, we have 50% of this market share, 50%. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant because I was in college. I thought I knew everything, but obviously I knew really nothing measurable. And it was interesting to see this. And I say little man because he was not tall. But he had such great visionary ideas. And I thought, how could anyone have a 50% market share of anything today? And I grew up in Japan and I had come back to the States to go to college. And Japan is much more densely populated. Right. So my frame of reference was very different than what I had in the States. When I came back for summers, I was at my grandfather's ranch, riding horses and convincing him that I was okay to drive his ranch truck because there wasn't anything that I could run into to wreck it. So it was pretty cool to see that. And then I started inserting myself in conversations with builders or with leadership. And I would ask them, hey, is it okay if I just listen in? Mm-hmm. So I forced myself into that position. And I had a leader who said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I told him, I want to be you. And so he forced me to be literally, I have been in purchasing, I've been in estimating, which I could still do a lumber takeoff for a frame. So it sounds super complicated, but it's, you take the base plate times 4 plus headers, cripples, and tees. And there you have it. Now roofing, thank God they have the computer technology nowadays that you can do takeoffs much more easily. But it's funny the things that stick with you over decades, because now it's been really more than 3 decades, even though I was only 12 when I started.
12 years old, coming from Japan. Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. Like 12 years old, you grew up in Germany, or you were born in Germany, you grew up in Japan.
Yeah, I really wasn't 12, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Because if you do the math, it's like 30 years, more than 30 years in an industry. How old am I? So that's why I say I started when I was 12. I'm lying about my age.
So what gave you the confidence to jump into the home building business here in the United States? I think, there's so many women that I talk to at first that say, they felt like they were so alone. Like you said it already, it wasn't really a woman's place in this industry. At least that was the mindset, when you were joining. And then we'll jump into if you still think that's the mindset. But really, what gave you the courage to kind of put both feet in?
I didn't necessarily have the courage. I had the determination. If
Mhm.
you look at obstacles at stopping points, you can't survive. And I would love to say this is the industry that I chose as my entire career. And I would love to say that we're evolved socially, environmentally, politically, in every area. We're not quite there yet. So for me to be in a leadership role, you notice if on my LinkedIn profile, I have some initials. So I'm a certified graduate builder. I was one of the first female certified graduate builders, not because I was super interested in having initials after my name, but because I felt like I needed that to compete. I did every job. I worked much longer hours, and I'm not trying to play the female card necessarily,
Right.
but I had the determination to get it done just to prove someone wrong. And that's not ideal motivation. But then instead of being what I did, it became who I am. And home building, I like to win. And there's so many opportunities to win in home building. So there's no coincidence that you see a lot of sports fans in home building. If you believe that you can make a difference, or you can watch somebody else and you can help them make a difference, it's like, yeah, we all get the win. It's pretty cool. And it does become, again, not just what you do, but part of who you are. And if you can affect something and go back years later and say, wow, I got to be the framer in this neighborhood, or I got to be the mason in this neighborhood, that you're really truly helping families achieve the dream of home ownership. It's really cool. And when you can see your past and what you had a part in, it takes an entire village. So even, somebody who poured the sidewalk and broom finished 123 Main Street, they played a part in somebody's life forever. You become part of their life story. So how could you not be addicted to that?
Well, and that's really it. And I agree. And that is awesome. I love it. And being a builder, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, it's actually rewarding to be able to drive around and say, you know what, I built that house, and show your kids, or I worked on this project, or like you said, I was the one that laid the concrete and brushed it out, whatever the case is. So I absolutely love that. And that is the gratification that we get from this industry, right? You can actually see the fruits of your labor. And that's what's so fun. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the office or in the field, you can actually see something come to life that you worked on and give somebody else some pleasure, or, a place to put their head down at night, raise their family, all of those things. And it's an inspiring industry when you look at it that way.
Yeah. And you ask somebody where life happens, you ask anybody, what's your favorite memory? And it's usually something about that happened inside the home. So
Right.
not only did we create the sticks and bricks, but the life happens inside the sticks and bricks. So not only multi-generational, it's a multifaceted industry.
Yeah, it is. It is. So earlier you referred to our industry as frozen, which is ironic because as a dad of twin daughters, I have watched that Disney movie about 1 million times. So are there lessons to learn from that movie and apply to the home building industry, if not in business in general?
Yeah, and it's actually pretty cool if you know the Disney business model. And if you looked at it from a business perspective, there's a lot of analogies with that movie Frozen. So Frozen, Disney has a typical business model of there's a heroine, there's music, and there's a prince who comes and saves the woman, right? And when they were making this movie, they struggled and they threw out so many iterations of this movie. And they finally decided that instead of the woman being rescued by a prince, that is it possible for the female to be the heroine? And if you ever listen to the business model side of Disney, this broke every rule of their business model. So Frozen, if you relate that to the home building industry, being frozen as an industry means that, we're good enough. We ain't broke, so we don't need to fix it. And Disney, the play on Frozen for them as well was their business model was always A to B, B to C, C to D, and they followed a critical path, just like home builders follow a critical path. What they determined, though, is that it just wasn't working. So they made little shifts in their process. As they made shifts in their process, their movie evolved. So not only did it meet the larger criteria for a movie, but they ended up with female heroines who weren't just saved by the traditional love of a prince loved a princess and saved her from some kind of catastrophe, but it was sisters who proved that being frozen can open you up to new possibilities, and love conquered all and unfroze the movies so that you got to a logical conclusion that was much bigger than anything Disney had done. And not coincidentally, it was their highest grossing movie ever. And we're still talking about it how many years later?
Right. I mean, and it's a good movie, by the way, even if you don't have kids, it is a good movie. And I agree with you. There is a lot to learn from it. So when we relate that back to our industry and being frozen, right, we're stuck in time. Like we're a time capsule that's really getting ready to be opened. At least that's the way it's feeling with the new ideas, the new entrants coming onto the market, the new tech that's coming out. What do you see like Frozen in the movie in our industry that's going to help us start to blossom and open up and come out of this time capsule that we've been stuck in?
So, and I'm going to throw out something that I'm not an expert in, but are you familiar with the Bayesian business model or the Bayesian manufacturing or Bayesian psychology? It was a guy I believe in the 17th century that had a business model, and I relate everything to a business model, but a mental model on how you can make decisions. And it's basically you can take scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, add them all together, work the law of averages, and predict what's going to happen. Even taking the scenarios today are that home building, we're going to be in a deep recession. The bubble will burst, which is funny to talk about an industry globally because the east side or the East Coast, the West Coast, the center of the country, we all have micro markets, macro markets. You can't, it's not one size fits all. So I don't believe that we're going to see a housing bubble burst. However, there are some economists and the feds, if you look at treasury bonds and all the things that are pushing up interest rates, we could be in a perfect storm to change the industry. However, if we took these, like the movie Frozen, they actually had some leadership changes. So the path of the movie changed in a good way. Same people, different roles. They shook it up a little bit. We have an opportunity to do that in home building, regardless of scenario A, B, or C. If we can tweak and think, there's a saying, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. We have an opportunity for this to mirror the tech industry. When the tech industry had really tough times, that's when you see the growth. You see tremendous bell curves. And home building, it's kind of been bumping along where it ain't broke. We don't need anything new. We don't need new bricks, for example. The old bricks work just fine. But we're starting to see some breakthroughs. And you saw that at IBS last year and this year. The judging just started, and I'm a judge for the show, and I'm seeing some things that really gave me pause for thought. Some of them won't be announced until the show in February, so I can't throw it out there. But I can tell you, like Icon, a builder in Austin, just signed, I think, a $57 million contract to print 3D houses on the moon. Do we need houses on the moon? No. But is
maybe
breakthrough for innovation, because we could, disruption really is coming up with things you didn't know you needed. We'll look back on this now and go, oh yeah, thank heavens for Icon building 3D houses on the moon. That's pretty amazing, right? But if we can have that mindset that we're not just going to be frozen in our industry, that it's okay to think outside the box. I attended the Pro Builder housing forecast last week, It'll be in the magazine, I believe, in the December issue, and some of the prints should come out, I think, this week. But it's interesting when they were talking about their predictions and what life looks like. 68% of the builders said that they felt confident that they would have a good, profitable year. But what about the 38? And then they talked about the builders who are offering incentives or price cuts, and that was pretty much everyone. There are a few builders, and I'll call them disruptors, and I'm sure this one wouldn't mind me mentioning their name, but Jones Homes USA, based in Florida and North Carolina, instead of offering big incentives, they're looking at doing value added. The reality is if you have a $50,000 price cut and you sold a home yesterday at the old price, how have you affected your appraised values for the homes that are going to close after the one with a $50,000 discount? You're doing something that topples dominoes for the next couple of years when you reduce the value. And really, if we only bought homes because of price, or we only bought things because of price, you and I would have the same watch. We'd all drive the same cars. I would own those fancy headphones, or you would own, the ones that I own that aren't as fancy if price was the only thing that mattered. So I think holistically in home building, we'll see innovation. This is a Jeanne prediction. Who knows if it'll come true?
Jeanne's coming out of the bottle. Let's go.
Yeah, I got some predictions that we're going to see some innovation on sales. We absolutely will see innovation on building materials, on building science. I think we're going to see innovation on application. One of the new processes that we're judging at IBS right now is tools that you look at it and you think, how did no one, this has been a pain point for 30 years or longer. I don't know before my time, but how did no one think of this before? It's so incredibly simple and extraordinarily innovative that I can't wait for the world to see some of the cool stuff coming up. But it's because we had pain points that we got there. So at the end of the day, those obstacles, we'll figure out how to go over them, under them, around them, or through them. Bring it on, because that will get us unfrozen.
I love it. Wow. Good wrap up. Back to frozen. I love it. There's a whole lot to unpack and all of that. Right. But I do agree with you. I think, anytime there's a problem or there's a lack of labor, whatever the case is, right. Lack of material, somebody comes out of the woodwork with a new way of doing things. And it's always been that way. It's the American way, right? To be innovative and come up with ways to disrupt. And I'm going to quote my good friend, Jerry McCahey, right? On something you were saying. And this is what we have to look at about this time capsule. And I'm probably going to mess it up because I don't have a good Irish accent, for one. And two, I don't even know if I'm going to say it right. But he always says, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got, right? We need to start changing a little bit here. And that's starting to happen. And it's happening, in my opinion, because of the lack of the labor in the industry. It's happening because of the fluctuating market, everything that's happening in the market. It's making it really hard to keep your profits as a builder because you never know what next month's going to bring on the profit or on the margins, especially if you can't buy in bulk like some of the big builders do. But I do think that change is coming. And I think you're saying that as well. Like there is new technology, there is new ideas starting to be shared. And there's new people coming into the market, like 3D printing. Icon, for instance, they're one of several. We've had Black Buffalo. We got another one coming on soon that also has a contract for space exploration. That's really cool stuff. And there is an application for it, and a lot of people will argue, right? You're a green builder. Like you believe in energy efficiency, green building, all of those things. The interesting part is, a lot of people will say, well, concrete isn't the future. But then you talk to a guy in Switzerland who I had on the show from Bow Builders, and the most sustainable house to build is the one you don't have to build again, ever. Right. And that's how they look at some of these concrete structures. So Jeannie, moving this conversation forward, what do you see from your perspective as what's going to take the industry to the next level when it comes to technology, comes to innovation, and how do we get people interested and excited to be back in this industry? Because that's the big thing, right? How do we get the brightest minds coming back into this industry, and how do we get them excited about, the trades?
Yeah, and this is probably an unpopular answer because again, we're not broken. We don't need to be fixed necessarily. But the key is if you look at, again, I'll reference that Pro Builder housing forecast. They gave statistics on the age of the average industry personnel in their 40s and or median age. So median is a halfway point. It's not even average. So if 45 is the halfway point of the age of the people in the industry, we're in big trouble unless we can attract that younger generation and then give them the ability to make changes and to disrupt. So the Toyota business model, I guess this is business model day. And one of the reasons they are so successful is that they empower their employees to make decisions based on whether or not you are a janitor or you're the CEO of that factory. You can make a decision and you can pull, I think they call it an on-don cord, that you can pull the cord and stop the line. Now, every second that the line is down costs a tremendous amount of money. Right. But if you give the teams the ability to stop and have ideas and say, well, what if? What if we didn't look at everything the way we used to? Because the younger minds certainly have different upbringings than we had. We had a dial phone that they don't know what that is. So they've been acclimated to computers in a way that we've not been acclimated. We're not only going to have to meet them where they are, which is certainly not where we are today. We've got to lure people with technology, some cool tools, and with a promise of, you know what, come here with us and we will help you innovate. We'll help you turn your ideas into something tangible. Let's put it out there rather than you need to come on board. You're going to do it this way. We're not going to pay you much. You need to work 12 hours a day and love it or leave it because you need us more than we need you. I think the roles have changed a little bit and we really do need that smarter generation, smarter meaning different perspective than what we currently have. And we can work together with the experienced teams, adding to that, and we'll see innovation. We'll see cycle time. Back in the day, there's a video floating out there about a home that was built in 24 hours. It was in Dallas, Fort Worth, and it's on YouTube somewhere now. But they had, I don't know, 200 people or something, and everybody on site at the same time, all the materials there, the inspector on site, sleeping there on site. All these things had to happen so someone could prove you could build a home in 24 hours that was actually livable, no blue tape. But there is a better way than just having everybody show up on a job site and sleep there and need the size of a football field as a staging area. Actually, it was a couple of football fields as a staging area. But I think this could be a tremendously exciting time if we're open to it. And we have to figure out a way to get those new workers not only engaged, but we need them to fall in love with the industry like you and I have.
Yeah, for sure. And get the rewards of what this industry gives people, right? There's the reward side. And a lot of the generation loves the environment. They love giving back, right? They want to have satisfaction in what they do. And I don't think we do a very good job of explaining that portion of what this work gives people, especially when you see somebody move into their home or how excited they are when you turn over the keys. I think those are always the best days, right? And I love that. And I love what you said about companies empowering employees. We just on Friday had Stacy, I believe her, let me just take a look real quick. I don't want to get her name wrong. Building Transparency is the newer organization, but Stacy Smedley was working at Skanska. And Skanska actually has an employee fund where if you have a good idea, they will fund it. Not only did they fund several ideas, they funded her idea, and now it's huge. And I think this is that empowering of giving back. Right now, they have building transparency, which is doing carbon calculations, and they got the biggest players, Microsoft, Google, all of them doing this nonprofit with them as they try and change how we build and how we calculate what we're building and what the risk of it is. And they even worked with, Stark Industries from the Avengers. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., and they calculated what his mansion costs and what the Avengers, building they live in costs and his suit that he wears and all, from a carbon footprint. But this is what you get when you empower people to do great things. And that's what you're saying. How do we give the power back? You can't give it all back, but how do you give some parts back where people they have some, they feel like there's some value and they can make a decision when something's wrong or could be better.
Yeah, if you look at the best companies to work for, one of the key elements on why they're there is that they feel empowered, but they also feel like the company invested in them by training them, by giving them knowledge. Right now, especially in construction, if you're new, you have to make years of mistakes before you learn those lessons. There's not, because with production home building, you don't get to be tucked under the arm of the guy who's been there for 30 years. He doesn't have time for you. So a lot of it's trial and error, and that can be eliminated. And that's where you'll see cycle times that used to be 6 months, sometimes are now 18 months, go back down to maybe we land at 3 months and 90 days because all the efficiencies are in place and there's expectations for everyone that are reasonable. And it's, that single-minded goal that we're all on the same team, and who knows what'll happen.
Well, we are on the same team, and I think that's what's fun about this industry. So that was a great prelude to unfrozen me. Can I unfreeze or unfroze? But you're right. So that kind of leads us into this. The last portion of this conversation is what you're doing at On3. How are we taking unskilled laborers that don't have the quote unquote 10,000 hours to be considered an expert? Right? How do we get this new workforce to do what they do? And you have been working with On3, and you guys have developed a platform that empowers not only the companies, the employers, right? It also empowers the team members to be able to do more because they have the information at their fingertips at all times, no matter where they are in a factory, on a job, or working on something to go to Mars, whatever the case is. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you're doing with On3, because I think this is very pertinent to this.
Oh, thank you. I think it's important as we talk about then the new generation, they all have a phone, even young kids have phones nowadays, and it's giving them a way to learn where they are. So traditional learning, and I worked for KB Home for 12 years, and they had something called KB University. And I loved it. And I had that boss who said, okay, well, here's your stretch plan. I literally learned about every portion of the business online first before I could prove my stripes. Can you imagine a young girl getting into the land development side? That was scary for them and scary for me. But what we've done now, because not everybody has a KB University, and certainly it's tough to be engaged if sitting in front of a computer at your desk during working hours or working overtime is not your thing, then there's an app for that. So micro learning is really one of the things that On3 has produced now for the home building industry. We're also in, oh, cool. I didn't even tee that up for you. But we're in home building, we're in healthcare, hospitality, but my wheelhouse is home building. And it's pretty cool that you can meet somebody where they are. So specifically, there's a builder who is brand new. Not only does he have obviously the support of the company, but there's a process that he can follow, driven by whatever company they work for, that can teach them those next steps, can point out potential points of failure, and also can give you the learning tools that are artificial intelligence based. So if I needed to know something about anchor bolts, and I was in the field and I hadn't even gotten to the anchor bolts section of my course curriculum yet, I could type into the app anchor bolts, see a field guide learn the information, and I can even text that field guide to the trades. And, oh, well, this guy speaks Korean. I could text it to him in Korean live, or another trade, I can give it to him in Spanish, or I can save it for myself and watch it in English. So it really is taking every component in little micro bites, because that's how we learn best, and serving it up. And then also making sure there's some deep knowledge that I'm going to remember it today, tomorrow. Instead of the learning curve, I learned it today, 2 weeks from now, I have no idea. It's set up to recognize every individual person and say, hey, you know what? You got this one question wrong. Let me ask that question in a different day tomorrow, or in a different manner tomorrow. Right. And it makes sure you know what you're supposed to, so you don't have to make those mistakes in the field before you actually learn.
Well, I mean, this, I just love this. I saw it last year at the International Builder Show, and I've been telling you guys forever and a day, like, I want to know more. I want to help bring this out to our trades, especially to the offsite community, because there's nothing like it that I've seen out there yet. And you can believe it. We see a lot as we travel the world, and we're always looking for innovative things to have on the show. But the fact that there is it's an app, right? That's just one part of it. There's the app, and you don't need internet for the app to work. So if you're in a remote location, this can be completely customized. So if you're in my world, manufactured housing, whether it's modular, panelized SIPs, CLT, I can develop my best practices on video, have it on the phone, how I want my connection points, where I want my wires, ... right? What I want you to, take note of and take pictures of for future reference, all of those things. Any employee can do exactly what you said. They can ask their app, and the app will tell them or show them exactly how something is done. And if that doesn't work, I love it. There's the hard hat coming out too. That's going to have like the lens, like the glass, whether it's, Google or Bosch or whoever that does the glasses, to where it can actually start helping you see and understand. This is the learning part of it. It can pick up if you're doing something good, if you're doing something bad, or if Jeannie, you're in San Francisco and I'm in Japan and I'm working on something. I say, Jeannie, can you help me with this? And I can bring you into my hard hat if I have the internet. This is powerful. This is powerful stuff. And I know that's step 2 of this journey, but the sheer fact, and I'm so excited. I got to say one more thing. The sheer fact that it's done in several different languages, right? It can be customized to the manufacturer, the builder, whoever's using it, the developer, the government, whatever the case is, medical, I saw on there as well. And it meets your team where they're at, because in our world, for instance, a lot of team members don't like taking tests. And if you want to train them, it's a training app as well. And they can either take a read test and answer the multiple questions, or maybe they're not good test takers. They can video themselves doing it, but either way, they still take the test, and they either show you they can get it done, or they can take the test and manually do it. And I think there's just too much to unpack here. I'm just going to shut up.
There's a coaching component that's extraordinary, and you really can't inspect what you expect by asking, and it's all served through the same platform. You're asking the trade, now show me how you can do pre-blower door test HVAC inspection to make sure there's no air penetration holes in the basement. You can be very specific. They serve it up, do a quick video, walk you through it, and send it back. But also what we're finding that we thought would be ancillary, that's now becoming huge, is that builders can customize their own platform. We have a secondary app called On3 Create, which you mentioned. You have the helmet, video camera, or you can use your cell phone and record what you want your team to know. We build it out in learning in micro modules. So we keep it to 5 minutes at most. 3 minutes is a sweet spot for quick learning points, and it's working extraordinarily well.
Yeah, and I mean, how can it not, right? This takes a lot of the pressure off of companies to make sure that their team is doing it right in the field. Because like you said, the folks that have been there for their 10,000 hours, they're busy, especially if you're growing and you're taking things to the next level. And I think that's really where the value of this comes in. And it's so like the simplification of it, just for a manufacturing perspective, you deliver modules, you have sections, you put them together. Your company's nailing pattern is going to be different, in Florida than it is going to be in Arizona based on wind loads and what those nail patterns are. It can all be right there. So anybody working on the home, set crews, people, with the crane, any of them can see exactly what it is in a moment's, just really quick, and they don't have to just rush through it and get it done and hope they did it right. This is what I love about it.
Yeah, and we're finding manufacturers like the American Windows and Doors Association is also providing content for us, and manufacturers and suppliers are saying, okay, here's our like masonite doors, here's our doors, and here's how our installation process works best with our doors. So it can be as specific to a product or as specific to a company as you would like it to be. And for companies like D.R. Horton, that everything they do is branded, and there's the D.R. Horton way. This is an ideal way for them to be able to customize the content using their phone. And we also have, we literally have an Emmy Award winning film crew that can come out and create models as well. It's groundbreaking and hopefully game-changing software and technology that can kind of infuse learning into a culture who has not really embraced learning as a culture. It's just, you got to go out there, get your hands dirty, do your 10,000 hours, make the mistakes, and we'll come back and correct them behind you. Let's prevent the mistakes. Let's decrease the cycle time. Let's preserve some profit by doing it right the first time.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the bigger builders and developers in the country that are using this. Let's talk about the technology itself. Is it inspiring and enabling others to want to join the industry? Are you seeing that happen?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the first time I saw that happen was at IBS last year, when we're walking around with the helmet with the technology that you can record. You can say, hey, on 3, record my conversation with Dave Cooper. And then you can say, hey, on 3, stop recording. So that was just enough, especially for the gamers in the industry. That was just enough that they're like, hey, tell me more, because I didn't see anything else like that anywhere I've been. So being cutting edge really is going to be key to getting some who are not already interested in an industry to come on board. Frankly, anyone who was at the International Builder Show was there because they were interested in home building, but our outreach has to be much bigger than that. We need to be, let's catch them in high school, trade schools, college, and show them, there are other careers that you can find meaningful, where at the end of the day, everybody says, if I love what I do, it's not work, I just still get paid for it. This could be that for them.
Yeah, for sure. And this type of technology coming into our industry, we're not just seeing it in what you're doing. It's starting to happen in design fields with BIM and using AI and augmented reality there. But this is really what we need. I mean, this is meeting the younger generation where they're at versus trying to drag them back into where we're at, which hasn't moved forward very much, right? We're frozen, so to speak. Some examples, if you don't mind, like people that are using this, what are there any white papers out there? Are there any studies showing the value that this is bringing to their teams?
I haven't seen any white papers. We are a startup starting in 2020. Last year was our first real launch, and we won Best of IBS. And I say that to say we're new, Best of IBS for new product. So we haven't seen white papers, but we've seen lots of testimonials on how, if you even just intuitively think, gosh, if I can teach someone what inspectors do in the field, we have a home inspection series, which is a big hit. If I can show a builder how to inspect what he inspects before the inspector comes, and we have cut down re-inspections by 50 or 75%, that speaks for itself because of the cost, the downtime. Interest clocks are ticking. There is no builder out there who doesn't pay for the use of money, whether it's internal or external. So every day counts. Every time that, and especially with supply chain disruptions, it's impossible for a builder to control what's happening right now, but you can certainly control the things within your control. Your team is within your control, within the control of your organization. And if you could teach someone to be your eyes out in the field, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, that's, again, that's what everybody's struggling with in this industry. And this is, part of that solution to have those eyes in the field and use it. And I want to put it up here because I just really want to show and Jen's like, come on, let's, she goes, don't be an infomercial here. And I'm like, but I'm not. I love this stuff. And I want everybody to really understand that, I look forward to actually really helping, put the word out there for On3, because this is exactly what we need. It's in the educational space. It helps all of us learn how to build it better, with the new technology, and it gets everybody in, our industry. And these are the people that have already adopted using it. And I think this is just, for a startup, that's pretty impressive. No, you're not. Did you just sit there and just go, oh my God, I can't believe we have this many people already? That's awesome.
Yeah. It's been incredible, and it's been well received. It's not, we're still learning and growing. And earlier we talked about the word pivot. I think not just pivotal that we're here, but having the ability to learn from every single one of those clients is key, because one builder who's in multiple cities has different needs and applications in every single market they're in. Not all building practices, certainly not all codes, not all electrical code is the same just because it's a book. Municipalities and counties sometimes have different codes because somebody who's on the building council there thought it was important, regardless of what code is or not. And in the hurricane in Florida this year, just outside of Tampa, there was one new home that was left standing. It's not my story to tell. It was one of our clients. And I'm hoping that, I know they captured it on film. I'm hoping that they put it out at some point on the new building code and new technology. We happened to be there a couple of weeks before, capturing the process on video with our film team. But that home withstood everything when everything around it was gone, decimated. And this builder, using the new building code and capturing that process, has this amazing story to tell. And I can't wait until they come forth and even show a drone footage. It's like, why is this house standing when these other homes aren't? And there's a lot to be said for building code and changes, but the nuances between every market are so vast that nothing is one size fits all.
Yeah, and the codes are changing so fast. I mean, it's hard to even keep up with the codes that are changing, or the codes are finally adopting from 3 years ago, whatever the case may be. So that's another thing to keep up with. And a lot of builders, out there, don't even know how to calculate a day on the job site, right? Most of them don't. But what happens are people notice when jobs are behind schedule or they're running over budget, so getting your people trained can help with all of this, right? It can help you understand your job better, not have to keep in your mind all the million moving parts that there are when it comes to building a home. And that's what we all do currently. This empowers people, to keep all that education with them.
Yeah, and I think from the learner perspective as well, we get great comments, feedback through the app. It's like, wow, I've been in the industry X amount of time and I didn't know that. So we have a pre-qual section where the experts, instead of taking a course, you can just test out of it. And it's interesting to see the people who have been around for a long time who aren't able to test out because they didn't recognize something had changed. So we're finding that the ancillary support that this gives and being more up to date with what's happening out there. If you've been in business for 30, 40 years, you might not know, if you're in the county versus a municipality where this changed, you might not know because no one's holding you accountable to this one thing. So it's really cool to see that we can teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. Me being one of those old dogs, I'm learning lots of new tricks.
Oh, me too. With all this video stuff, I am way behind the schedule, and I watch some of these younger folks do it. And I'm like, how'd you do that? And it's so simple. I was just like, well, maybe my mind doesn't go that fast anymore. Well, listen, this is awesome. I'm a big fan of On3. You know, all cards on the table. I look forward to helping bring this to the International Builder Show this year. We're going to do some stuff together, which is super exciting. So I'm excited about that. This is not a paid for conversation whatsoever. We invited Jeanne on. We've been talking about it for a while, not just for On3, but just, you know, what's happening in our industry. You have given a lot of your life and your time to making this industry better, and you continue to do that. For other women that want to join this industry, what would you say to them, Jeanne?
Don't give up, and don't take a no as a no. Take a no as a pivot. If this is something that you want to do so that you can see your work in action, and you want to know that you've made a difference and that you persevere, there's nothing like climbing the mountain on your own behalf. It's
Right.
a disease, and it's super rewarding. But once it's set you in, you're not getting out. So keep going.
That's it. You're here. When you're here, you're here. That's it. All roads lead back to the home building industry. Hey, yes. Judy Donnell's in the audience too. I don't want to miss out on saying hi to Judy. Professional Women in Building Proud. Jeanne is a great mentor and ambassador. That's right, Judy. Good to see you. Judy's been in the building industry for a long time, and she works with 84 Lumber, which a lot of people don't realize is a woman-run and owned organization, and they do great thing. And then Judy does so much with the NAHB as well. I bet you're busy getting ready for the International Builders Show, Judy. We're going to be there, and we're going to have fun. I love it. I love it. I love it. George Ryman, what's happening, George, from Phoenix, Arizona? Always good to see you as well. So, and everybody else that's tuning in. Jeanne, we are out of time. Was that like the fast? Oh my gosh, we're at 57 minutes already.
That was fast. But here's my thank you. We love you and appreciate you. And it's pretty cool to see you shining a light on a frozen industry.
I love it.
Nothing can hide under the light. Good
job.
That's
it. Somebody needs to make sure everybody's connecting out there, so everybody for their businesses and for their future can decide what works for them and what doesn't work for them. But if they don't know people exist, how do we grow our industry, and how do we collaborate, and how do you get this really smart person with this really smart person, and then all of a sudden, you know, it morphs into some amoeba that grows into some, you know, great being in the future or something like that. And that's what we're all trying to do. So Jeanne, thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely awesome. Everyone, if you're not familiar with On3, go to on3.ai, check them out. Tell them Dave Cooper sent you, or reach out to me. More than happy to connect you with the right people, so you can take a look at what they're doing. There's some great options here for you. So outside of that, Jeanne, you don't go anywhere. Everybody else, I hope you have a wonderful week. I know we had a bit of an off week last night. We got the old happening in our house in a big way all last week. So you definitely didn't want to hear me try and talk. I can guarantee it. Outside of that, we are looking forward to the holidays coming up, and we are looking forward to another wonderful Wednesday and BS Friday. So we got a product spotlight coming up for you, and we got a BS Friday coming up for you, and Saturday Coffee with Dave. Jeanne, you sit right there. I'll come right back to you in just a moment. Everybody else, enjoy Monday. Because why? Because Monday is the day we start, and we get to start working and getting it done again. This is the exciting day. We hung out with our families. We had fun. Now it's time to change how we build. And you got 4.5 more days to do it this week. So I'm Dave Cooper, Jeanne Conger. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye now.